for that one. So enough from me. I'm just going to hand over to Lewis Knight, who's going to say a few words about Oxfordshire Greentech, and then we're going to get cracking with the presentations. Lewis, over to you.
Thanks, Martin. Just a couple of minutes from myself, but I think Martin gave a pretty good introduction to Oxfordshire Greentech. We launched last year to some fanfare at the Saïd Business School here in Oxford. Principally, we're following a very similar model to the successful Cambridge Cleantech network. We're supporting the growth of the low carbon economy across the county of Oxfordshire, but also the wider regional hinterland. We really want to supercharge the low carbon economy in Oxfordshire by bringing together like-minded, green, clean organisations to do more, faster and at lower cost. And as Martin mentioned, Oxfordshire Greentech is a collaboration between three founding partners. Bioregional, the company I work for, which is a sustainability consultancy, Cambridge Cleantech, and also Cherwell District Council in the north of the county. And really, we were born out of a county-wide ERDF funded programme called Ox Futures. And we bring together business, academia, and also other organisations to encourage innovation, collaboration, and knowledge transfer. As Martin said, how have we been doing this? We've been running lots of events to share knowledge and facilitating networking. And the current COVID crisis hasn't been stopping us. We've been running pretty much one webinar or workshop a week. So if you're interested in finding out other things that we're getting involved in, do check out our website and our social media. Over the summer, we have 3 Build Back Better hackathons that we're running alongside the City Council, alongside our sort of 4 focus special interest areas, which includes low carbon mobility, the circular economy, the built environment, and as Martin mentioned, the very important topic of access to finance. So without further ado, I will hand back to Martin, and if you have any specific questions about the Greentech network, do speak to either Martin or myself or the other colleagues from Cambridge Cleantech. Thanks, Martin.
Lovely, Lewis. Thank you. Thank you very much for that overview on Oxfordshire Greentech. That was very helpful just to set the scene. I did just notice a question had come in from David asking about the 2 coffee rooms. The 2 coffee rooms are basically based on the themes of the 2 speakers. So one will be focusing on very much on the EnergyTec cluster at Harwell, and the other one will be focusing on the sustainable development of the campus itself. That'll be with Emma and Will, respectively, who are the 2 speakers coming up in a second. Okay, before I introduce Emma, I'm just going to hand over to Cynthia, who's going to plug in a short video just to provide some information on the campus itself, just to set the scene for us. Cynthia, over to you.
Extraordinary is every day at Harwell. It thrives on challenges and has been breaking boundaries for over 70 years. The UK's atomic town has evolved into a global science and technology hub. Over £2 billion invested in world-leading infrastructure, 6,000 people, national laboratories, global businesses, Oxbridge spin-outs, and over 30 universities cluster here and work together to answer the big questions. The energy from brilliant minds makes the energy that will power our future. People from all walks of life are making huge strides forward in life sciences. Machines designed for inhospitable places are conceived inside welcoming spaces. You can digest brain food and street food. Hone your mind and your body. At Harwell, the world's most ambitious organisations meet, discover and make in innovative hybrid spaces. we're creating 110,000 square feet of new buildings that will inspire breakthroughs. New buildings for future businesses. Harwell is addressing the world's greatest challenges. It is the epicentre of UK science and innovation. It's where pragmatists dream and thinkers deliver, where frontiers are smashed and new ventures are born. Your next step is here.
Well done, Cynthia. Fantastic. That was a great video. I'm glad the technology worked for us as well. So that's well done. Thank you. Right, let's get on to our speakers who you've really come to listen to. And first up, we have Emma Southwell-Sander. Emma's role is head of the EnergyTec cluster for UKRI, UK Research and Innovation. And it's the Science and Technology Funding Council division, if you will, of the UKRI that Emma works for. She oversees the development and management of the EnergyTec cluster on the campus, and she's been instrumental in building on the strong foundations of the cluster with innovative energy tech companies, UK public bodies, academia, and the broader industry to share knowledge, focus on funding streams, and concentrate on areas of growth. And the key to the success of the EnergyTec cluster is making sure that there are plenty of cross-industry collaborations, ensuring also a multidisciplinary approach. Emma, over to you to tell us about the EnergyTec cluster. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Lewis, for the invitation to speak today. Very much appreciated. So I'll try and follow that video, which I think actually gives quite a good background with a bit of the history about Harwell that we'll go into more detail with later. So I work for the STFC, and now part of UKRI. And I run the Harwell EnergyTec cluster, and I'll be speaking a bit about our thoughts on the future of clean energy and our net zero targets and what that's going to entail. So just to start with a bit of background, we have 4 main clusters that we focus on at the moment at Harwell, and on the STFC side we link to our sister site in Daresbury. So at Harwell, we have over 6,000 people that come in every day. We have numerous visitors. So just for Diamond alone, I think we have over 10,000 visitors a year. We now have over 200 organisations and over £2 billion worth of investment. So the main sectors that are represented through the clusters are space, health tech and life sciences, data and supercomputing, and the cluster that I run, which is energy and covers environment and transportation. So for any of you that have been to Harwell or know Harwell, you'll recognise the main Fumi Avenue running up through the site. So over to the slightly northwest, we've got the Diamond Light Source, the Central Laser Facility and ISIS, where I'm based. We collaborate across our networks through academia, government and industry to bring organisations in to conduct experiments at Diamond, CLF and ISIS, and particularly in energy that can range from materials science all the way through with a wide variety of projects on experiments in whether that's nuclear, oil and gas, wind, solar, battery research. So we also have the head office for the Faraday Institution at Harwell. More recently, the Rosalind Franklin Institute is going up next to my building. And then as we come down, you can see we've got the European Space Agency, the Satellite Applications Catapult, RAL Space. And then as we move over towards the east of the site, we go into more of the Harwell campus piece where we have organisations like Oxford Nanopore. And we'll go into a bit more detail about the different organisations later. So with the 3 main clusters at Harwell, so space, health and energy tech, we have over 105 organisations in space. It's considered the UK space gateway. with the recent £99 million investment in the National Satellite Test Facility. Health tech, we're now up to 57 organisations with nearly 2,000 people. The recent investment in the Rosalind Franklin Institute, VIMIC, and we've been awarded the Life Sciences Opportunity Zone. And then the cluster that I run, we have 57 organisations now on site that work in energy, over 1,100 staff. I have over 100 organisations in our wider network, which include Cambridge Cleantech and Oxford Greentech. I mentioned that we have the Faraday Institution HQ there, and what that brings with being part of a cluster is that no organisation is on its own. So whether that's a startup with one or two people, an SME going right up to the multinationals, the power of that is extending our networks and inviting collaboration. So one of the programs that we run is called a proof of concept program. We've had 44 projects over that with around 1.7 million investment match funding from industry over the last 3 years. So it really gives companies the chance to collaborate with organisations. You've got to have one organisation at Harwell, but then we can extend that around the country, and it really strengthens and integrates the research base. We have a very skilled workforce at Harwell. It strengthens our national and international links because we don't consider Harwell to focus only on our region, but really promote us that we are a national site that can be used for testing, validating technology, bringing in our expertise, and indeed our international links, because a lot of the organisations at Harwell either are multinational or work in overseas markets, particularly organisations like Ricardo that we work quite closely with on some of our energy projects. So the recent strategy that we've been involved in and that I've been part of writing is for the local industrial strategy, local, regional, national and international. So there are three main components of that. Firstly, we want to look at Harwell's future energy sources and how we're going to manage that. And our main direction at the moment is to think of Harwell as a high-tech living laboratory. So we want to look at microgrids, what renewable energy we have on site in regards to PV. With planning permission changes, can we look at future wind energy, heating, cooling, EV charging points, and most importantly, how this is all managed in a smart way. So the data piece of this is huge. It's basically like a virtual power station where you're managing your energy usage and all of the elements around that. The second component is a shared site within the facilities and across RAL with our demonstrators. So we have the green ammonia demonstrator at Harwell. Faraday are looking at a new battery test research laboratory where we can start to invite in our groups within our networks to share projects and really utilise that space. And then the third main element is our proof of concept program, which I mentioned earlier, where we're bringing in startups, SMEs to work with multinationals on new ideas, projects that they can work on in collaboration. And a number of those have gone on to receive further funding and are progressing and really building up momentum. I've mentioned that part of the local industrial strategy is to promote Harwell as a high-tech living lab, and that's really been thought through with Oxford, linking into Living Oxford, which has three main parts. So there's Oxfordshire Mobility Living Lab, Oxfordshire Health and Wellbeing Living Lab, and Harwell has been identified as a place where we can have a high-tech living laboratory. And the whole idea of a living laboratory is future-proofing communities. So our community piece means that we can link to those communities and get feedback through Living Oxford, whilst being able to concentrate on the technology at Harwell that can be made at scale, and bringing in further investment both nationally and internationally. So we're saying that Harwell we really see as a test bed for innovation, where we look at solving global challenges. It's an analogue of industrial and commercial settings. It's already embedded within the UKRI, and particularly recently with the UKRI sustainability report coming out, and quite aggressive net zero targets, so aiming to be net zero by 2040, that we're linking into those targets that aren't just a flat system, but provide an environment for future research and development. And then connected to that, we're looking at travel, green fuel solutions. I've mentioned integrated energy systems. I'm really working alongside the government. So particularly we work closely with BEIS to facilitate engagement and make sure that we have that support across all of our networks. So this slide gives you an example of the different organisations in the EnergyTec cluster. So we're part of the Shell Game Changer programme, which has 100 SMEs in the programme, and we can link that through to any organisation in the EnergyTec cluster. We're working closely with BP, who want to be a key partner with the Science Council, and the cluster's doing everything that it can to support that. Engie, Siemens, right through to some of our SMEs, such as QDOT, a prominent, we recently had an article with QDOT in the Times, and I'll give you a sort of high overview of what they do in a minute. And then on the left of the slide are the different programs that we're involved in. So vehicle electrification, electrochemical energy storage, blockchain management, AI, looking at ammonia as a vector for hydrogen, battery research. And so drilling down, QDOT are based at Harwell. They joined our EnergyTec cluster last year. They're a technology that have looked at research into nuclear fusion and cut the car EV charging time by 2/3. So this is a fantastic example of where we've had an organisation that's moved to Harwell. I think they partnered the Faraday Institution on their proof of concept project. We've been able to elevate that to BEIS and really raise their profile throughout the cluster with all of that support behind them. Another programme that I'm looking at this week is with Canada and BEIS, where we've got an organisation that is putting together a programme of different universities and industry partners to analyse the data of energy consumption, storage, forecast CapEx and OpEx, look at carbon footprint reduction. So really key to the data piece. Faradion and Brill Power, both. Faradion focuses on energy storage, batteries where we can store energy over time with a wide temperature range and with significant safety and cost advantages. Brill Power experts in battery electronics. So they've invented an intelligent control system which can extend the battery lifetime by up to 60%. So one of the projects that I'm working on at the moment is trying to pull together these different organisations so we can have a really fantastic showcase at Harwell, perhaps at our reception, whereas we get people coming through to visit, tours, VIPs coming in, we can say, oh, you know, we've brought all of these partners together and this is what we're doing, and highlight what the innovative technology is. Okay, so I think that is the end of my slides. I think I've just about stuck to time.
Emma, thank you very much indeed. That was fantastic for us, just in terms of setting the context of what the campus is all about. Particularly like this notion of it being this test bed for innovation and a high-tech living laboratory. And I think some of the items related to that living laboratory are also relevant to the next presentation, which is looking at the future in terms of the sustainable development of the campus overall. So thank you very much indeed. I can't see any questions at this stage for you, so defer any questions that come up until we have a joint session, a Q&A session at the end. And now I'd like to welcome Will Garrod. Will is a development surveyor at the campus. He's actually a chartered surveyor by training, it won't surprise you to know, with 10 years experience. And he works with new and current occupiers on the campus to develop the physical space that will suit their business, technical and scientific requirements. He's experienced in working with organisations of all shapes and sizes, spanning both the public sector, from the private sector, from industry, and also from startups to international. So, Will, over to you to tell us a little bit about the history and then, importantly, what's going to be happening going forward with your ambitious plan.
Good morning. Good morning. Apologies, had a little connection hiccup there. Thank you all for joining. I was initially asked to conduct a campus tour, which is fairly easy normally, and to give a summary of what the campus is, where it's come from, where it's going. A little trickier in a virtual format, so we'll see how we get on with developing or delivering a campus tour. To cover the background, how to cover 80 odd years of history, 700 plus acres of development project and scope for over 5.5 million square feet of development in the allotted time, fairly rapidly. My calculation gives me around about 19 seconds per acre or a couple of minutes per decade. But let's look, with time already against me, I'll have a quick walkthrough of the history of the campus, what it's meant for past generations, what the place is now, and how we plan to continue redeveloping the campus to support the work that will benefit the world for future generations. These are lofty ambitions, but this is the potential of the place and the people that operate here. Quickly, we'll look at some of the many occupiers on campus, such as Public Health England, Medical Research Council, the facilities such as ISIS, Central Laser Facility, Research Complex and the Synchrotron Diamond Light Source that Emma's touched upon, a myriad of occupiers here that tie into a scientific community to offer an environment for collaboration, both on the research and on the commercial front. I shall focus mostly on the commercial developments on campus. But a quick hark back to the history to begin with. Formerly and firstly, Harwell was RAF Harwell, a base in the Second World War with 3 runways. I don't know if you can see my arrow here. 3 runways. The personnel at RAF Harwell were involved in Operation Market Garden, and D-Day's first glider-borne troops came from RAF Harwell. Some of the buildings that we are refurbishing and have refurbished today hark back from that time. In particular, our HQ building, our own office was the RAF HQ, and the visible history is strong at Harwell, something that we're keen to preserve and to build upon. After the war, moving down to our middle shot is a period of UKRI occupation. After the war, the site was transferred from the Ministry of Supply, or to the Ministry of Supply, and became the Atomic Energy Research Establishment. During this period, the density of the site obviously increased, and it became the UK's main centre for atomic energy research in the UK. It was a top secret location with secure boundaries and fences throughout the 1950s. If you look on an OS map, which you proudly got hanging in one of our breakout spaces in the office, Harwell is shown as simply Harwell Field. No reference whatsoever to the important work going on or the density of the development on the campus at that point. In this period, the campus set an early precedent, and it achieved many world firsts, from the assembly of the world's first transistorized computer to groundbreaking experimental reactors, the technology of which has had and continues to have a profound impact on the energy generation of most of Western and Northern Europe and beyond as well. Worth looking down the list when you get a moment, or if you have a moment, on the Harwell website of the firsts in history at Harwell, from the establishment of the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory. The history of invention and discovery in this field is amazing. Fast forward to today, and we're back to a hybrid view here of what is in existence and what will come into existence, albeit with a couple of minor amends, one would imagine. This campus today is a centre for innovation and science with ambitious expansion plans to over 5.5 million square feet. Central to this are the 3 clusters, the 3 current clusters of space, energy and life sciences that Emma's touched upon, and we'll build on further to add more to those as we develop out the campus. This develops the campus community into a collaborative environment that is a fantastic platform for expansion and to allow companies on campus the opportunity to leverage the environment that they're working in and to grow, to scale up and to grow on. Which brings us on to space for expansion, and that is the campus tour. How to deliver a campus tour. I hope to be able to do this without actually having visitors on campus, and please forgive my lack of PowerPoint prowess, but hopefully you'll be able to follow my virtual breadcrumbs around the campus as we move about the site, and I'll try and emulate a walking tour to show what the place is about and what the physical presence of the buildings and the spaces for working is on campus. In terms of commercial space, we have recently been working with 3 types of speculative development that fall into the category of the legacy RAF buildings. So this is our HQ building ahead of us. The AEA buildings, along with modern office developments like the quad, which we'll move on to shortly, and developments of flexible scientific warehousing, design to house R&D activities, labs, assembly processes, and office space within the same building as well. So, first location is the HQ building, which was the RAF HQ. It's laid out in an H formation on a rather large plot. It is probably not the sort of land use that you would target today. It's horrendously inefficient from a land use perspective. But what that does provide us with is beautiful, beautiful architecture for a start, and shallow floor plates that can provide great light throughout, and the possibility of natural ventilation as well. Rather than demolish the building, the team elected to refurbish the space, and it does provide a wonderful working environment that harks back to the rather important history of the campus. This is an approach we're repeating a number of times with other buildings, which tend to have, of this era, fantastic floor-to-ceiling heights and nice light spaces. From this spot, our red dot here, we can turn left, and you can also see the quad 1 development, which is the first in a building of the quad that is designed to reference the centuries-old approach of Oxford colleges. And this development also includes a gym, a cafe, to serve the 1,000+ people working within a 3-minute walk or so. The wider 6,000, of course, probably a little longer than a 3-minute walk. So the intention is to create a green area, public space for events, networking, socializing, and working outside in the summer as well. It's rather wonderful to see the campus come outside in the sunshine with the deck chairs and bean bags, and to take advantage of the environment and to collaborate in what is a wonderful green space within an area of outstanding natural beauty. So this is designed for networking, socializing, and events, perhaps even a beer at the end of the day. The development plans to make sense of the quad name by adding in quad 2. A standalone quad does not a quad make, but quad 2 will close off one side, and it'll become a more coherent quad in itself. So quad 2 is in for planning at the moment, and it references the design approach of quad 1, retaining the distinctive fins and glazing, providing a roof terrace which overlooks the quad, which will be a beautiful space to provide inside-outside working again, and cracking views across the wider campus. Speaking of the wider campus, from this point we can also see the cricket pitch and the croquet lawns. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the cricket pitch, and I shall try and avoid updating anyone on the test score at the moment in case we're shielding ourselves from that sort of information, but a fairly rapid start to the morning's progression by my understanding. This is a fantastic track. It used to be, and we owe this to the RAF and the previous incarnations of the campus, that it's been managed and maintained. It is a fantastic resource for the campus as a whole. It used to be Berkshire County Cricket Club's ground until we were rezoned in the early 70s, I understand. Don't fact check me on that. But on a Wednesday afternoon, you can see football rounders with intercompany tournaments for both of those organised on the campus in lunchtime. And in the evenings, people spill out from work to play football, rugby. We've also got running clubs, cycling clubs, rugby, archery, many activities. It's probably time that we avoid any more reference to Test cricket for the time being, and we will hark back to the buildings on campus. So we're moving along my breadcrumb trail west from the HQ building and down Rutherford Avenue to 8th Street. It's a very interesting spot on campus here, and as you wheel around, you'll have to take my descriptors for it, but we'll have a couple of examples coming up. You can see a very interesting sort of cross-section of the last 8 decades or so of construction from the HQ building, Hangar 10, which was housing an experimental reactor, some of the other RAF buildings, and then further afield to the old library from the AEA days, and to RAL Space and the Zephyr building as well, which is a more recent multi-let science warehouse offering. I'm mingling the topics here a little bit, but it's probably appropriate at this point to talk about future development and what's on the go at the moment. So this is the Zeus building that you can see on the bottom here, as envisaged as a finished product. And as of 2 weeks ago, it looked like the top image that you can see there as well. This is the third iteration of the science warehousing concepts that we've had on campus. And they're built to accommodate a flexibility of fit-out options. The diversity of activities that people engage in on campus is quite astounding. And to build a finished turnkey product for all and sundry to come along, I think would be a challenge. So what we do with these buildings is to build a flexible space with clear height. For science companies' operations, they can fit out to the required specification, or we can amend the building to accommodate clean rooms or clear height space for assembly and testing of space hardware, for example. This building will be an enhanced version in terms of its aesthetic appeal. It's going to be clad in Core 10 steel and larch cladding, and is designed to be as client-facing as it is productive space. It provides the benefits of capable elements of an industrial building with an innovative and science-focused environment for the making and doing and the application that companies use on campus. This building, we actually ran an architectural competition for a steel portal frame. It's kind of unheard of, but that's the route that we wanted to go to reach a solution that met our desire to create a functional space with an elevated aesthetic and achieve a development that respects and maintains the mature trees and the landscape around it on the plot. So you can see at either corner of the plot here, we have clumps of mature trees, and the building has been designed by Allies and Morrison rather conveniently in a Z shape for the Zeus building to work its way around these trees and maintain the position of those and to work in the scheme with the development itself. Moving from here, we wheel around and we can see old RAF buildings, rather similar to the HQ. This building in particular, Building 150, or hopefully more catchingly, the Airman's Mess, as we are renaming it, to hark back to its original function as the Airman's Mess on campus. We reference the historical use, but this is 4+ meter floor-to-ceiling heights. It's currently being refurbished to provide a collaborative workspace for centralized breakout and collaboration in spaces internally and in courtyards around the building as well. 2 more RAF and AEA era buildings. We have the Airspeed, which is currently under refurbishment, and the Innovation Centre as well. The Innovation Centre was formerly residential accommodation for trainees during the UKRI era. And we've repurposed it into the Innovation Centre. It provides smaller subdivision of units, which are ideal for start-up and scale-up firms, and is managed in a way that allows companies to move up, down, left, right, as their requirements demand. They can take more space or shrink down as well. We will move south down from here, down 8th Street and past the Vimic plot. Vimic, rather topical at the moment, high profile for obvious reasons. This is an Oxford University, Imperial College and London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine tie-up, and will provide for a research company providing vaccine development and manufacturing capability. This will allow for novel and innovative manufacturing processes, which rightly is progressing this development at an accelerated programme to deliver for early next year, and will provide an emergency response capability for the UK in the event of pandemics or a prophylactic approach. The finished product on the top there, albeit in CGI, that will be the ultimate appearance, and the progress on site has been extremely rapid. If we look at the bottom shot, which was a little over 2.5 months ago, through to a couple of weeks ago, with the form being outlined by the steelwork there on site. We will move down, and this is an example of a design and build solution rather than the speculative or the multi-let buildings that we've been talking about to date. We move down further down 8th Street, look at a couple more design and build HQ projects. Not only are we developing the multi-occupier solutions here, but there is enough space with our 700 acres to accommodate standalone HQ buildings as well. There are a couple of examples here of new buildings, one being Agilent Technologies on the top. Both these buildings incorporate elements of lab and office accommodation in a newly landscaped area that I took a picture of on a particularly cloudy day. So forgive me, I've not made the best of that beautiful landscaping that takes foot traffic away from the roads and links north to south through the campus from ESA and Diamond up to the Quad and the HQ buildings. The rather whimsical middle photo there is a photo of the MinION product in front of the building that it's designed to, that the building is designed to replicate the appearance of Nanopore's MinION products, which is a rather fun take on building design there. The Agilent building has recently been completed, and the Agilent fit out provides a large amount of breakout space that is right for collaboration within the organisation in a light environment, and a very eye-catching green wall inside as well. Also visible from this roundabout as we spin around is the Genesis and Zephyr buildings. Genesis is appropriately named. It was the first iteration of the science warehouse concept at Harwell. The building type allows for large clear height, as I mentioned, to eaves for flexibility of fit out with R&D, lab, assembly and office space in mind. And this allows occupiers to house all manner of operations, from their making and doing to their office function as well, in one location, rather than the typical approach of having an HQ office in a multi-let building, and then a rather distant building that might meet the functional needs of the business as well. This allows for an efficiency and locating all in one spot. Worth referencing the environmental work that goes on here, with particular look to our environmental strategy and the green network, the green corridors that run through the campus, through to the exterior and into the surrounding landscape. There's a nice anecdote of, I was doing a campus tour, felt a little different to this one, but on foot and walking down to the Genesis building last summer, where we walked past a deer and her young that were settling into a small courtyard area with picnic benches, and it was a really great example of how the inside to outside approach of a green landscape corridor works. Zephyr building is the second iteration of this concept. and was built with higher eaves to accommodate demand for space capable of some serious clean rooms. Oxford Space Systems, for example, have the largest clean room on campus here, where they where they assemble and design very innovative space hardware, satellite dishes and the like, with carbon fiber products. So here is an array of sort of views. I had to include the rather uninspiring shell situation of one of these steel portal frame buildings, but the two images above are indicative of what is fitted out in these buildings as a future usage. So we've got in the middle there, a fairly standard, if you will, sort of office looking type of setup, and then electrical lab above that can sit below that office function and provide for operations and HQ all within the same building. Moving further down south of the campus, we see an awful lot of the STFC buildings here and RAL space that Emma's touched upon, and she's covered the activities here in detail, and the videos highlighted the exciting activities and potential of the national labs, the research facilities and the incubator programs here. Quick list of the important developments that are under construction and on working on is the Rosalind Franklin Institute, the National Satellite Test Facility, which inspires the imagination with capabilities to examine hardware responses to temperature variations and physical environment of launch, including vibrations, and quite how your space hardware is deployed before you go down the rather expensive route of launching into space. Also the National Quantum Computing Centre and the Extreme Photonics Application Centre as well. As we look down Fermi Avenue, past Diamond, we, in the foreground, can see the European Space Agency, as Emma's touched upon. And this was previously one of the runways at RAF Harwell, passing past all of the ISIS, Diamond Lights or Central Laser Facility. These deserve their own two-day tour in their own right. They are quite incredible pieces of research infrastructure. But this gives us a look down the end of Fermi Avenue to the future, larger scale development, how we address that. So this is an element of a site that is one of the next stages of development on the campus. It's planned for 750,000 square feet of new development, and is a reasonable time to focus on the sustainability, the future of what we're doing, not just in terms of building design, but also in terms of transport, biodiversity management, and environmental considerations as well. This large site will follow a number of themes already on campus, and continue our sustainability approach with some further opportunities to tie in benefits of scale and delivery on a single plot that we can take advantage of from a sustainability perspective. This is just one of the locations for future development on the campus. It will include a variety of building types, and at the other end of Fermi Avenue as well, we look forward to welcoming Natural History Museum, who are establishing their scientific research centre at the other end of Fermi Avenue. This will expand their research capabilities and be an internationally significant centre in the study of the natural world. This won't be dinosaurs and that's it. There is a huge amount of research. I don't think anyone's fully briefed on quite what the scope of the research that the Natural History Museum provide, and what that means for our environment going forward as well. So that'll be a fantastic addition to the hub of companies and the clusters that form, looking at and standing on the building on the capabilities that these institutions provide. When we look at sustainability for the future, you can see from this CGI image here, it encapsulates nicely that we have to look outside of our own borders, and we have to consider the site in the wider context of the environment, the landscape, and what that means for the implications on travel and the economic implications for the local area. As I mentioned, we're in an area of outstanding natural beauty, but also in an employment zone and in an area of growth for a lot of skilled jobs on the campus. So it's important that we keep a view not just on the energy possibilities for our sustainability strategy, but also the biodiversity and workforce well-being on the campus itself. The Fermi Gate site and the other upcoming opportunities for development allow us to continue the approaches that we're taking. Travel, for example, we have a site-wide travel plan that considers the need of not just the whole campus, but the wider transport network as well. This dictates our management of today's offering and plans for the future, which is constantly being redeveloped. And we look to expand the access and flow of public transport through more of the campus as we develop new areas. We've been adding in recently new bus stops, new bus routes through the campus. And we've been subsidising those bus routes from the local area to provide improved access to the campus. This works in concert with improving the provision and support of cycling, walking to and from the campus. Harbug, for example, are an example of an organisation that provides subsidised bike repair on campus. And they organise events to raise awareness and provide information for cyclists on campus. Worth also mentioning the walking element of this. We sit in a beautiful natural landscape that is blessed with an awful lot of public rights of way, also including the Ridgeway. So historic routes of transport through the campus that pass right by our borders and make us accessible on foot and on bike. Away from transport, our overall environmental approach is achieved through the master plan, with key focuses on the landscape design. Projects master planned on a smaller scale, generally you'd expect to be architecture and building design focused. We work very extensively with landscape architects to develop our overall planning for the future, and it's this landscape and environment that dictates the orientation of our buildings and what is appropriate where, and how we go about delivering them. Particular focus is made to protect and enhance habitats and link the campus with the wider landscape. It sits in the wider landscape, as I've said, by providing greenways through the campus that allow wildlife in and out, like my deer on my walking tour. And this strategy will inform how we design the physical schemes and their positioning to be additive to landscape and to the campus and the wider area as well. We are reusing and redeveloping this campus. It's been built out for 80 odd years, and in doing so, a site like this, we must consider a wider energy strategy than a building by building basis. And a development project on this scale gives us an awful lot of opportunity to do that, to look at the efficiencies in energy use, not just in designing buildings for efficiency of energy use, looking at what we can add in, looking at what we can take out, but also look at the management and efficiency of the M&E systems on a building by building scale, but also allows the potential for storing and reusing of waste energy across multiple different buildings. So we can link in the development area to make efficiencies across a larger site. Alongside initiatives to generate energy on campus as well in centralised areas, as Emma's touched upon with ammonia. And in our design approach, we cast the net as wide as we possibly can with our consultants and our design teams in expanding on the way that we can make sure we're having discussions with not just the design team, but also our partners on campus, STFC and other organisations, but other sites in the area as well. We work with Bureau Happold, Hawley and RPS, who are involved in the individual projects, but also in steering and developing our strategy as we move forward. Of course, an overarching sustainability strategy has to consider the impact not just of what the future needs of draw for the energy or the wider tie-in with the environment as well, but the initial impact of construction, how and where materials are used. where they're sourced, and how a project is managed to minimise waste. We, throughout the construction process on all of our buildings, we view it as a key element, and work with our contractors to test, to examine the inefficiencies, and to measure and quantify levels of waste and where things can be improved as well. Much of the materials previously wasted can be reduced by optimizing design to avoid waste, and to reusing excess material as well. But a big area of focus for us as well is managing the miles travelled to site for materials and for labour in our projects. And one that flies under the radar from time to time, but is reducing the scale of packaging and the protective materials that go into delivery of a new building. These glazed surfaces, the metalwork, everything that goes into this sort of thing is covered in plastic and then taken off. So we're looking at how we protect, use protective materials that can be recycled. And this approach has to be conducted alongside our work to optimise the building fabric and also the building design system going forward. So in terms of the operation of the building and how it ties in, how it's delivered, but also how it operates, it's important too to look at the biodiversity, not just from a planning perspective, but from the well-being of those on campus. How does our green travel, our social sustainability, of which community employment, and I suppose biosecurity needs a mention at this point as well in the event of a pandemic, must get a mention, as well as looking at the future, the current and the future considerations. As part of this social sustainability, we also look to deliver homes to the north of the campus, next to provide a homes next to work on the campus itself, to reduce traffic miles and the amount of traffic that's coming onto campus, and to create an environment of living and working for the future, something that we can all look to. The holistic approach we take to developing all of this and to implementing the sustainability strategy across the wider campus meshes with our partners, and the STFC in particular, the organisations that Emma has referenced. The high expertise in scientific R&D, technology and innovation with our partner organisations is world leading. And of course the energy cluster and the opportunities that that's going to present as we take on these next large scale developments, from sharing and testing technology within the living lab, but application of techniques as well. There is bound to be no such thing as unlimited energy, not yet anyway. A large element for our work in future planning is to look at the design of the campus and to work with the energy cluster to expand the application of what we're doing on campus and what efficiencies can be made in the future. The campus-wide approach in this regard is intended to provide for a more effective solution of management across the whole campus, rather than the granular detail of building by building that we may normally be faced with in a less cohesive development setup. The history and the current achievements on campus deserve an appropriately ambitious plan going forward. Fast forward 20 years, I do not know what the detail of the finished approach that we will ultimately take will be, if there is such a thing as a finished approach. It's not set in concrete, that would be a sustainability owned goal. But what is clear is that this strategy for the coming years and decades will not be a single static solution, rather a mix of technologies applied to manage and enhance the environment, and making efficiencies in how buildings are built, managed, both singularly and across the campus as a whole. I look forward to hearing your views collectively on the opportunities ahead that will play into our solutions in our breakout session. And I'm very clear that this will be a great learning opportunity for me, to network with you all and to hear what solutions are available. With that, back to the test cricket or questions. Martin, we could do questions in the breakout rooms?
Will, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. That was a fantastic overview of the campus. What a fascinating past and, well, I would say an equally ambitious future for the campus as well. Everything from retrofit to new build, the whole of the sustainability strategy, including energy, renewable energy, transport, the environment itself, waste management. Yeah, really very interesting times, and I'm sure many of the participants will have some ideas. There are one or two questions I'll just quickly go through with you. I'll give you a bit of a breather first, and then we'll go into the coffee rooms. And on the coffee rooms, if everybody could let us know on the chat screen, if you just type in which room you want to be in. So the EnergyTec cluster with Emma is the room, coffee room 1, and sustainable development Harwell with Will that you've just been hearing about is coffee room 2. So you just type in and let us know which room you'd like to be in. Somebody was also asking whether they could have a certificate of attendance. Yes, if you contact us afterwards, we can issue you a confirmation of attendance. So a couple of questions for Will before we go into those coffee breakouts. If you can keep the answers fairly short, Will, just conscious of time. First of all, a question to do with the power supply for each building. Is the KVA power available? And if so, where is it? And the second question, I'm going to give you both questions together, is where is the funding coming from for all of this building? You've obviously impressed the participants and saying, well, where's all the money coming from to make this happen? Will, over to you.
So with regard to managing the KVA, or rather the MVA, that's required to address these developments, we have a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plan in what we intend to be installing on the ground, and where that capacity comes from. We work very closely with the energy supply to maintain our pipeline. That would be a key bit in any development, but as something of this scale, we have to really look to the future. And then onto the firepower, which is the campus as a whole has, in terms of the commercial offering, has escalated at a rapid pace in the last few years, and that's through development finance with Santander, but more latterly with the investment of Brookfield into the campus as well, which allows us the ability to ramp up the delivery of the ambitious plans that we have on the site.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. I think there's just one last question, and it refers to the retrofit of the older RAF buildings on site, which presumably are a bit less in terms of energy efficiency. Are you looking at particular technology in terms of retrofit for those?
The technology for retrofit, we are keen. So there are some easy wins and there are less easy wins. So the airspeed buildings, for example, are almost an exact replica of the wings of the HQ building. They provide for quite shallow floor plates, and where possible, we're keen to take the easy wins in that regard and to make sure that they are naturally ventilated where possible, rather than locking all the windows and then installing air conditioning. There's also the management strategy and how we manage the energy usage in those buildings as well. And these are modern approaches rather than overhauling a giant great furnace. There's some quite exciting sort of ancillary space in those buildings, and the history of going through and taking out what was in there and then looking at what's going in is really rather intriguing. Not to mention the historical interest of finding letters from airmen home to under the floorboards as you go through the building. There's really exciting things going on there. And Fiona in our who heads up our marketing team managed to track down the family of one such airman and return the correspondence to them. Which really exciting.
Fantastic! What a story. I'm sure some of our participants might have views and ideas and suggestions for you in terms of retrofit products as well. So just two things before we get into the coffee room. First of all, a big thank you to both Will and to Emma as our speakers today. So thank you to you both. And then secondly, just to let everybody know that our next event is actually as soon as tomorrow. Same time tomorrow, we're doing an event on business development in the North American market. So if you want to hear about how to set up in the USA, if you want a soft landing for all of that, we have some specialist speakers for you tomorrow. So that's enough from all of us. Thank you to all the participants today, and we'll now hand you over to Cynthia and Oriane, who will now put everybody into the coffee rooms that you've nominated yourselves to be placed into.